Hello children, how about a story? This is the story of Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. Once upon a time there was a beautiful little boy named Jack. His skin was white like the snow, and his hair bright blonde like the sunlight warming his country of Liberia. But little Jack was sad because a bad man hurt him and made him hurt other people. When the good people came and took him away, little Jack forgot all about the bad man and his favorite knife and the rivers of blood he had spilled, and he was happy. When he grew up, he became a soldier to protect our guns and our other great freedoms. In one mission, he killed so many people that he remembered all about his past as a killer, and he was sad again. Jack changed his name to Raiden, and he was sad all the time. But it was okay, because he had also turned into a ninja, and people now liked him. He was a cool cyborg, part man, part machine. He was like Stephen Hawking, only dumber. He started working for a private military company, protecting good people as long as they paid him. He felt like a modern-day superhero. But when another evil PMC killed the man he was protecting and made him look like a fool, Raiden got so embarrassed he went to teach them a lesson, with the help of his ethnically diverse cast of friends, but only one girl among them because, as we all know, girls have cooties. Jack's friends were all huge pansies and only talked to him on the phone. So Raiden took his sword and started cutting. He cut people, and he cut planes, and he cut helicopters. He cut other cyborgs and even robots, including Metal Gears as big as the eye can see. And he liked cutting stuff because it was so easy and effective. He could also combo slashes with only his high-frequency blade, or with one of many alternate weapons he stole when he killed other enemy bosses. One in particular that he took from the chopped body of a girl cyborg with many robot arms had such a long range that groups of enemies and unmanned robots had no chance against him. He could also use rocket launchers and homing missiles and many different types of grenades, but cutting was just so much fun he kind of forgot he had all that other stuff. Sometimes he could also just hide under a barrel or a cardboard box and sneak past the enemies. But it had been so long since he was a secret soldier, he no longer remembered how to do it right. His moves were stiff, his toys too few, his radar was rather unhelpful, and for some reason he couldn't take his eyes off of his sparkling hair to look at the enemies for more than a second. When he chose to do it, he found it tense, but in the end slicing was just more fun. Raiden was a special kind of super ninja, so when he believed in Jesus with all his heart, he could move faster than little Kevin's sister when she's having one of her epileptic seizures, and cut his enemies into many tiny little pieces. This was useful because he could tear their spines out like candy from a piñata and absorb something called electrolytes, which made him stronger and healthier. He could also focus to move his sword and do something he called a precision cut. Precision cutting seemed like a good idea at first, but little Jack was so scared of all the bad people, his arms got all jittery and couldn't aim to save someone's life. When an enemy boss demanded he did it to defeat him, he got really very cross with him. But as strong as he was, Raiden couldn't have beat the bad PMC if he hadn't learned how to counter enemy attacks. Fortunately, countering was easy and very satisfying for him. All he had to do was lean toward the direction of the enemy and try to attack. This parrying move filled him with so much joy that he could do it all the time as part of his combo and leave the enemies open for a special attack. The greatest challenge Raiden faced was Senator Armstrong, the only evil politician in the whole wide world. This bad man had no friends, and so he was harvesting children organs and transplanting them to robot bodies to make child soldiers to play with. This angered Raiden because he was also a child soldier when he was little. He was so angry it brought back outside the killer in him. Not the killer he had already been for all these years, no, but a killer that was way, way worse and just a little bit crazy. He attacked with all his might and killed the evil Armstrong after an extremely hard battle, unfairly harder, and still more boring than any battle he had faced before. For all the difficulties, Raiden enjoyed his adventure. He fought hard and dealt with his past again. He saw old friends and made some new ones. He even got a dog. He bought new clothes and other upgrades, and he did it all enduring hardline liberal preaching, and didn't even complain once. And perhaps one day, if he's a good boy and works very, very hard, he will get to do it again, and do it even better. Now, shh, go to sleep. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance is fun and addicting. The story is smarter than it looks at first, and the combat system is near perfect. Combos are easy to pull off and very satisfying, while the parrying mechanic is achieved easily by tilting the movement controls toward the direction of the enemy attack and hitting the attack button. As a friend mentioned on Twitter, most block mechanics either encourage turtling or don't absorb enough damage to be useful, and this is a problem that Revengeance easily sidesteps. There is a wide array of weapons, both for melee combos and ranged weapons like homing missiles and grenades, but the latter just end up stocking up as traditional attacks are just a lot more engaging to perform. There are also stealth segments that are surprisingly tense despite their simplicity, but they do come off as tucked-on afterthoughts that break flow. The big problems with MGR start with Zendatsu, the cat-at-will mechanic that was touted when the game was announced as Metal Gear Solid Rising all those years ago. The hacking mechanic for replenishing health is great, but precision cutting is utterly broken and better not used at all. Unfortunately, in a few occasions the game demands you use it, particularly in a few boss battles and for some collectibles. Boss battles are well designed for the most part, with the exception of the final boss, where difficulty just skyrockets and the fight methodology is all over the place. The camera is also slightly problematic, particularly when surrounded by multiple enemies, and mostly during the stealth segments. For some odd reason, the camera always reverts to Raiden when left alone, which can be a pain when trying to scout out the area and plan out a path. However, for me the biggest drawback is in the story, and especially the final villain, Senator Armstrong, and with the coded conversations. This wasn't written by Hideo Kojima, and it shows. A lot has been said about Kojima's writing, but the man injects a certain degree of sophistication and subtlety he doesn't get enough credit for. The man takes one position: war sucks, and then he just shares his own thoughts and concerns. For every point there is usually a compelling counterpoint, and that's why he never comes off as particularly preachy. Sadly, MGR sides itself heavily with hardline American liberal politics and rumbles on about them without any counterpoints or actual philosophizing and questioning anything. The game is short and takes an average of 6 hours to beat the campaign, but there are plenty of unlockable costumes, weapons and upgrades, as well as VR missions and other collectibles. The Steam version also comes with 2 DLCs bundled in. It looks good enough and sounds good enough. It's also surprisingly well optimized on the PC. I can run the game with everything on full on my low to mid-end PC at a steady 30 frames per second, but if needed I'd advise dropping the resolution and all the cosmetic settings to achieve the 60 frames per second. It's a game changer. As a Metal Gear Solid fan, something like Revengeance at first comes off as a sellout, but one can make the same argument for every title in the main series since Snake Eater. I know I have. Spin-offs are inevitable. They are guaranteed some sales and allow for some creative freedom, so it's a win-win in my book. And if not for them, after all, we wouldn't have Metal Gear Acid and Metal Gear Acid 2 on the PSP, 2 of the most unique and enjoyable games in the entire franchise. As such, Revengeance comes with a high recommendation from me for all its entertaining combat system and depth of gameplay that will easily counter its otherwise short length and will encourage multiple playthroughs.